are in the hospital after a shooting. This happened around 3 this afternoon near 31st and St. Louis.
Man, this one cuts deep, real deep. The streets of Chicago are frozen in shock right now, mourning another fallen soldier. Lil Durk, locked up in federal custody, just got hit with one of the most painful phone calls of his life. THF Bezoo, one of his most loyal soldiers, one of OTF's day one hitters, has been gunned down in cold blood, right in broad daylight on the west side of Chicago. This wasn't no random street beef. This was personal. According to early reports flying across social media, Zoo was at a local junkyard, just trying to pick up some car parts, when a blacked-out sedan crept up and 2 masked goons hopped out. Witnesses say they opened fire instantly, no warning shots, no hesitation, just pure chaos. Zoo was hit 3 times, one of those rounds straight to the chest from a 7.62 Draco. That's a high-powered rifle round meant to end lives, not scare people. He was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, but the bleeding wouldn't stop. Word spread fast across the city, and when posts started popping up from Duty Low, CEO, Big 30, and Pooty, it became clear. The streets had lost a real one. THF Bayzoo didn't make it. The hood cried that night. This ain't just another drill tragedy or a headline about Chicago violence. This is a story about loyalty, brotherhood, and how everything Lil Durk built with OTF is collapsing piece by piece while he sits behind bars, powerless to stop it. Before we even touch on how Durk reacted, we gotta talk about who THF Bezoo really was. Because this man wasn't just another name in the streets. He was a legend in his own right. Zoo led THF 46, the trigger-happy family, one of the most feared and respected sets on the South Side. They controlled the 46th and Drexel block in North Kenwood, a territory known for power and precision. This wasn't some reckless crew. They were structured, organized, and ruthless. But what made Zoo different was his evolution. He wasn't just a street menace. He was a man trying to grow past it. People close to him say he was changing his life, trying to focus on family, music, and business. Yet no matter how far he tried to move, the streets kept calling him back. He even caught a murder charge at one point, and walked out that courtroom a free man. That alone showed how deep he really was in the trenches. Bezoo wasn't some clout-chasing rapper pretending for likes or views, nah. He was cut from the real cloth. Every move he made carried that street-certified energy, and everyone in Chicago knew it. He didn't need to flex it online. His reputation spoke for itself loud and clear. THF had been at war with some of the most ruthless sets out there: 051, Young Money, STL EBT, Jero City, 757, and Brick Squad. It wasn't just talk. These were years of non-stop conflict, bloodshed, and revenge. Yet, in the chaos, they also built powerful alliances with O-Block, 600, and most importantly, OTF. That's where the brotherhood between Bezoo and Lil Durk became unbreakable. This wasn't no studio friendship or social media collab. These were genuine street ties, bonded through loyalty, trauma, and survival. But here's the twist most people don't know. In 2018, after serving time and coming home, Bezoo flipped the entire script on his life. He gave his heart to something bigger than the streets. According to his interview on No Jumper, he and King Von converted to Islam together that same year. They took their shahada side by side. 2 men the streets once feared, now standing together in prayer, trying to find peace after years of pain and destruction. That's not some publicity move, that's a spiritual transformation. Bezoo was actively changing. He still repped THF, still moved smart, still handled business when he had to. But deep down, he was working hard to become a better man. Islam gave him structure, focus, and peace that the streets never could. His people said he was different, more patient, more grounded, less reactive. And that's what makes his death hit harder than anything. The man was fighting to escape the violence that raised him, only to get taken out by the same streets he was trying to rise above. For Lil Durk, this loss isn't just painful, it's spiritual. It's breaking him apart from the inside out. To really understand the storm Durk's trapped in right now, you gotta look at the nightmare he's living through behind bars. On October 24, 2024, federal agents arrested Lil Durk at the Miami International Airport as he prepared to board a private jet bound for Italy. They didn't just detain him, they hit him with a conspiracy to commit murder for hire charge, accusing him of orchestrating a hit on Quando Rondo that left Rondo's cousin, Lul Pab, dead back in 2022. These charges carry serious weight, life in federal prison type of weight. The same man who was topping charts, performing with Drake and J. Cole, and living the dream now sits in a cold cell facing a future that might never see freedom again. And it gets even darker. Durk wasn't the only one caught in the sweep. The feds arrested 5 other OTF members that same day, dismantling the entire crew in one coordinated strike. Court documents say they've got it all. Banking records, flight manifests, hotel bookings, surveillance footage, and witness statements. The feds claim Durk personally financed the entire operation. Flights, hotels, rental cars, everything. They're painting him as the mastermind of a revenge plot gone deadly. While the internet argues over guilt and innocence, one fact remains. Durk's world is collapsing around him, and the streets he came from are taking everything he loves, one by one. If the prosecution's version of events actually sticks in court, then it's over for OTF. Done, finished, dismantled from the inside out. The empire that once stood tall on loyalty, power, and music is now crumbling brick by brick. But yo, the destruction don't stop at legal papers and sealed indictments. While Durk sits in that cold federal cell, fighting for his life, everything he built on the outside is falling apart in real time. Federal agents didn't waste a second. They froze his accounts, seized his assets, and locked up every major deal his label had lined up. The lifeline that kept OTF alive, the money, the brand partnerships, the streams, all gone. It's like watching an empire built from blood, pain, and grind turn into dust overnight. Durk spent over 10 years clawing his way out of the mud, transforming pain into platinum, and now he's watching the whole foundation collapse from behind bars. And just when you think life couldn't hit him harder, the worst news imaginable reaches his cell. Word spreads through the prison grapevine. THF Bayzoo is gone. Imagine that, fam. You're already trapped in a cage, knowing the feds are trying to bury you under life sentences, and then you hear that your right-hand soldier, one of your day one brothers, got taken out on the same streets y'all once ruled together. That's not just pain. That's the kind of heartbreak that breaks a man's soul forever. That kind of news makes you question everything. Your choices, your loyalty, your entire purpose. Because when you're alone in that cell, with nothing but time and silence, the weight of every decision starts crashing down like thunder. When the news of Bezoo's death hit the internet, it exploded instantly. Tributes poured in from every direction. But it wasn't just random fans posting RIP captions. This was real love, real pain, coming from the people who lived beside him. Duty Low, Big 30, Pooh Shiesty, all of them spoke out with emotion so raw it broke timelines in half. But the one that stood out the most came from Duty Low, Bezoo's best friend and fellow OTF brother. The two had history that went way beyond the rap game. They weren't just label mates, they were brothers in the truest sense. They'd been through shootouts, studio sessions, jail visits, and late-night talks about escaping the cycle that consumed so many around them. When Duty Low confirmed the loss publicly, his post hit like a gut punch. You could feel the pain bleeding through every word, the disbelief, the anger, the heartbreak all tangled up in one message. This wasn't no PR-crafted post or fake sadness for likes. This was a man screaming out in pain for his fallen brother. The caption didn't need fancy words. The emotion said it all. Chicago didn't just lose another name, it lost a legend who was fighting to change. And Lil Durk lost another piece of his heart while the whole world watched his empire crumble from the outside in. Then CEO Big 30, straight out of Memphis, stepped up to show his respect, and when he did, the entire industry felt it. Big 30's connection to OTF and THF runs way deeper than most people realize. His tribute wasn't just another RIP post. It was a statement that Zoo's reach stretched far beyond the south side of Chicago. This wasn't just one city mourning. This was an entire movement. The whole southern rap ecosystem standing still for a man who was authentically real. Big 30's post was short but powerful. No long caption, no theatrics, just pure respect for a man who carried himself with loyalty and integrity in a world where that's rare. When someone like Big 30, who's built his own name in the trenches of Memphis, stops everything to salute you, it shows the kind of legacy you left behind. Then came Pooh Shiestie's tribute, and that one hit hard. Keep in mind, Pooh is still dealing with his own serious legal battles, currently out on a halfway house trying to rebuild his life. But even with his freedom hanging by a thread, he took a moment to pay homage to Bezoo. That says it all. Pooh's not known for posting random sympathy. If he's acknowledging you, it means your name carried weight. It means you stood for something real in a game full of fakes. When rappers from different cities, different sets, and different legal statuses all unite to honor the same man, it speaks volumes. It's proof that Zoo wasn't just respected in the streets. He was loved in the culture. His name meant authenticity. His story was proof that no matter how dark the come-up gets, people still respect loyalty, heart, and truth. But here's where the heartbreak really cuts deep for Lil Durk. He can't do nothing. He's sitting in that cold cell, hearing the news of his brother's passing, completely powerless to respond. He can't pull up to the funeral and stand by Duty Low's side. He can't address the fans or post a tribute from his heart. He can't send a message to the streets or even drop a bag to make sure justice gets served. All he can do is sit in silence, trapped behind bars, while his brother's name echoes across the city he once ruled. That's torture in its purest form, being alive but useless when your people need you the most. That kind of pain doesn't just break your spirit, it rewires it. Imagine watching your empire fall apart while your loved ones die outside, and you can't even lift a finger. That's the psychological prison Durk's trapped in, one even colder than the metal bars around him. Now let's talk about why Bezoo was even back in Chicago and in such a vulnerable position. According to multiple street sources, Zoo didn't return just to flex or reconnect. He came back for economic survival. When Durk was free and running the charts, his entire camp was solid. That's what OTF, Only the Family, was built on. Durk took care of his people like a real boss. He paid legal fees, covered rent, bought cars, kept food on the table, and made sure everyone in his circle stayed straight. Zoo, being one of his most trusted day ones, was part of that safety net. But when the feds came crashing down and snatched Durk up, everything stopped instantly. The money flow froze. The bank accounts got locked. The label deals went silent. Suddenly, every man had to fend for himself. And Zoo, a man used to taking care of business, found himself back in the same streets he was trying to leave behind. He wasn't moving reckless for clout. He was surviving, trying to make ends meet in a world that turned its back once the cash dried up. It's tragic, fam, because Zoo's hustle wasn't about greed. It was about survival in a system that eats its own when the leader falls. When the feds came crashing down, they didn't just lock Lil Durk away. They stripped everything tied to his name. They seized assets, froze accounts, and dismantled every financial pipeline that once fed the OTF family. The man who used to take care of everybody suddenly couldn't help a soul. Overnight, the same people who used to depend on his generosity were left standing alone, facing harsh economic reality without the boss who built it all. According to people close to the situation, that's when Bezoo made a cold, calculated decision, one that would ultimately cost him his life. He went back to Chicago and quietly stepped back into the street economy. The word in the trenches is that he started moving weed again, not out of greed or ego, but out of survival. He had bills piling up, responsibilities on his shoulders, and no other realistic way to keep the lights on. He wasn't chasing millions, he was just trying to survive day to day. Now some might say, why didn't he just get a regular job? But that's where the real-world struggle hits different. When you're a known figure from THF, when your name rings bells on the block, and your past is documented in headlines, getting a normal job isn't realistic. Who's gonna hire a man with a history tied to one of Chicago's most feared sets? Who's taking that risk on paper? Society doesn't give second chances to men with reputations like that, no matter how hard they try to change. So Bezoo went back to what he knew best. Moving product, hustling through the same underground system that once raised him. But what he didn't realize, or maybe did, is that returning to the streets after escaping them makes you more vulnerable than ever before. When you leave that life, the game moves on without you. The alliances shift, the enemies multiply, and the moment you step back in, every eye that once watched you starts watching again. Only this time, they smell weakness. Your enemies don't forget, they just wait. They recognize when your protection's gone, when your money's low, when the muscle that once had your back is locked behind bars. That's when they move! And that's exactly what happened that tragic day at the junkyard. Sources say Bezoo was there to pick up car parts. Maybe for his own use, maybe for business. He brought 2 other people with him, likely for security. But someone knew. Someone was tracking his moves. They knew exactly where he'd be and when. That wasn't random, it was precision. Whoever pulled that trigger had been watching, waiting for the perfect time to strike. Now the streets are asking the million-dollar questions. Why did this happen? Who set it up? And what was the motive behind this kind of execution? The first theory making rounds online and in street circles is that this was a drug transaction gone wrong. If Bezoo had started moving product again, maybe he was at the junkyard handling business. Maybe it was supposed to be a simple handoff, a normal deal. But instead, the other party came in with bad intentions from the start. Maybe they planned to rob him. Maybe there was a money dispute. It wouldn't be the first time a so-called meeting turned into a setup. Chicago's seen it too many times. But here's the thing that doesn't sit right with people. The weapon. A Draco firing 7.62 rounds isn't something you use for a quick grab-and-go robbery. That's not petty crime equipment, that's war gear. The kind of weapon that tears through vehicles, walls, and people with terrifying precision. If this was just a robbery, the shooters could have used handguns. Something small, quick, and easy to conceal. But pulling up with a Draco? That screams intent. That screams message! This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment scuffle. This was personal. This was planned. Someone wanted Bezoo dead, not robbed, not scared, but erased. And the way it went down, the timing, the execution, the weapon choice, it all points to something deeper brewing beneath the surface. Something that runs beyond money, beyond product. Straight into the realm of revenge. The second theory, and this one's catching serious traction across Chicago's drill community, paints a much darker, blood-soaked picture. According to the streets, this wasn't some random setup or drug deal gone sideways. Nah, this was revenge. A calculated, cold-blooded retaliation for the death of DMG Lil Scum. Just last month, DMG Lil Scum, a rising Chicago rapper with deep connections and growing momentum, was murdered in the city. His death shook the scene, and before the smoke even cleared, fingers were pointing directly at THF 46. His people were furious, posting subliminals online, dropping disses in songs, and making not-so-subtle claims about knowing who did it. Within hours, the whispers got louder, and soon the streets had made up their mind. THF was behind it. Now, nobody can verify whether THF actually had anything to do with Lil Scum's murder. But in Chicago, street politics, perception is reality. It doesn't matter what's proven in court. If the streets believe you did it, you might as well be guilty. That's the brutal code of the city. So here's how this theory plays out. Lil Scum's camp had allegedly been plotting revenge since September. They didn't rush. They didn't make noise. They waited. They studied. They watched movements. And the moment they realized Bezoo was back in Chicago, back in motion, and no longer under the full protection of OTF, they moved with surgical precision. When they found out he was active again, probably running low on protection and resources, that's when they struck. That explains everything. The Draco, the multiple shots, the clean execution. That wasn't just a shooting, it was a message. A score being settled in blood. The streets say it was personal, not business. 3 rounds, 1 to the chest. The kind of hit designed to make sure there's no coming back. That's why they used a weapon like that, to send a message loud and clear to THF. We got one of yours. The timeline lines up too. It's been only about a month since DMG Lil Scum was killed. Emotions were still raw, and tempers hadn't cooled. If this theory is true, then Bezoo didn't die over his own actions. He died over association, over being the face of THF, over what he represented in those streets. His name alone carried enough weight to make him the perfect target. And that's the cruel, twisted reality of Chicago's underworld. You don't always die for your choices. Sometimes you die for your affiliation, for the people you stand beside, for the flag you represent. Now imagine being Lil Durk, trapped in a cold federal cell, forced to process all of this from behind locked doors. One of your closest brothers gone forever, and you can't do a thing about it. That kind of pain doesn't just hurt, it destroys. The first emotion Durk's battling right now is guilt, and it's eating him alive. Even though he didn't pull the trigger, even though he wasn't even free when it happened, he's still blaming himself. Because in his mind, every domino that fell started with his arrest. If he hadn't gotten locked up, if the money hadn't been frozen, if the team had still been moving strong, Bezoo would have never been forced to hit those streets again. He keeps replaying it in his head. If I was free, he'd still be alive. That kind of guilt can crush a man from the inside out. It's the kind of pain that doesn't fade. It just lingers, poisoning every thought. Then there's the isolation. The suffocating kind that comes when you can't even grieve the way you need to. Durk can't attend the funeral, can't hug Duty Low or the THF family, can't pay his respects face to face. He can't even make a proper statement to the public, because every move he makes is monitored by the feds. All he's got is silence, 4 concrete walls, a bed, and the echo of memories that won't stop replaying. He's not just mourning a friend. He's mourning the life he built, the family he formed, and the empire that's now crumbling without him. And that's the coldest part of all. Because even though Durk's a millionaire, a superstar, and one of the biggest names in rap, none of that means anything in there. In that cell, he's just a man, alone, broken, and haunted by the fact that one of his most loyal brothers died while he couldn't lift a finger to stop it. He can't even post a public tribute on his own social media anymore. Think about that. Lil Durk, a man who once dominated the internet with every move, can't even express grief for his brother publicly. His connection to the outside world, to the fans, to the people who built him, has been severed completely. He's locked away, isolated from everything and everyone that ever gave his life purpose. All he can do is sit in that freezing cell, staring at the walls, replaying memories in his head. Every laugh, every tour, every studio night with Bezoo, every plan they made that will never come to life. Now comes the third and hardest blow, the realization of just how much he's lost. It's not just Bezoo. It's King Von, who was gunned down in 2020. It's the countless homies buried over the years. It's his freedom, his music, his empire. Everything he built from pain and perseverance, slipping right through his fingers. And what's making that pain even heavier? Watching how fast people switch up. Because when the fame fades and the feds move in, the love evaporates instantly. That's the truth most rappers won't admit. When you're winning, everybody's loyal. When you're charting, when your name's buzzing, when your money's flowing, everybody's calling you bro. But the minute your name shows up in an indictment, suddenly everyone's ghost. The same rappers who used to post up with Durk, screaming OTF forever on Instagram, are now silent. The same industry faces who benefited from his clout, his cosigns, his features. They don't even whisper his name no more. They're terrified of being linked to him, scared of the feds digging into their own business. They deleted photos, unfollowed accounts, cut off communication. That's how cold this game gets. And so, Durk's sitting in that tiny concrete box realizing who really rode for him and who was just using him. The ones who were truly loyal, like Bezoo, are gone. The ones who screamed family forever vanished. The second things got rough. It's a brutal wake-up call that loyalty in this industry often ends where convenience begins. Now let's zoom out and really look at what's unfolding here, because this story goes way deeper than one man's death. This ain't just about Bezoo. This is about the cycle, the never-ending rotation of violence, loyalty, and loss that's been eating Chicago alive for decades. Lil Durk's whole empire was built on the principle of family. OTF, only the family, was supposed to stand for unity, brotherhood, protection. It was meant to be the escape from the same street pain that created them. And for a while, Durk actually made that dream real. While he was free, he kept his circle fed, gave them purpose, and steered them toward music and business instead of bullets and bodies. He used his fame to build a lifeline out of the trenches. But the second he got locked up, the second those checks stopped coming, everything unraveled. That OTF structure, that system of stability and loyalty, vanished overnight. And when the money dried up, reality hit hard. Survival mode kicked in. And in Chicago, survival mode means one thing. You go back to the hustle. You return to the streets you swore you left behind. You take risks you once avoided. You start playing with fire again because the cold reality is, for many of these men, the streets are the only economy they know. That's exactly what happened to Bezoo. He didn't return to that life out of pride. He did it because he had to survive. The feds froze everything. The label couldn't operate. The financial safety net was gone. And when you've got bills stacking, family counting on you, and no legitimate income in sight, desperation forces your hand. It's tragic because Bezoo had really changed. He found peace through Islam, tried to live with discipline, tried to walk a righteous path. Those close to him say he prayed daily, spoke about forgiveness, and wanted to build something beyond violence. But the system doesn't care about redemption. Once you've got that street stamp on you, opportunities dry up, and no matter how much you try to evolve, the world keeps dragging you back. And that's the cold, inescapable truth. The streets never truly let you go. No matter how far you climb, they're always there, waiting for one slip, one weak moment, one chance to pull you back in. For Bezoo, that moment cost him his life. For Durk, it's costing him his sanity. And for Chicago, it's just another chapter in a story that keeps repeating, generation after generation, with no end in sight. Even when you manage to leave the streets behind, even when you finally touch success, the moment that success fades, it's like the past comes knocking all over again. And when you return, it's never the same. It's worse! Because now, you're a bigger target, a name with value, a symbol that your enemies want to destroy just to prove they still run those blocks. For Lil Durk, this is his worst nightmare come true. Everything he feared most, betrayal, loss, and helplessness, is unfolding in real time while he's stuck behind cold steel bars. In that federal cell, Durk isn't just waiting on a court date, he's literally fighting for his life. These are federal conspiracy charges, not petty street cases. The possibility of never breathing free air again is real. And while he's trapped, unable to move, his day one, brothers, the same ones he fought to pull out of the trenches, are dying in the same streets he tried to save them from. Let's keep it 100 about what's really breaking him apart right now. Loyalty. Because loyalty is the very thing that's defining this entire tragedy. See, THF Bayzoo's loyalty to Lil Durk and OTF was unmatched. There was no question, no hesitation, no second guessing. When Durk got arrested on those murder-for-hire charges, when the feds were digging through everyone's past and the industry started backing away, Bezoo didn't fold. He stood tall when it was dangerous to even say Durk's name. He posted Free Durk when others were deleting pictures, removing tags, and pretending they were never part of OTF. That's the kind of loyalty money can't buy. That's real brotherhood. But the cruel truth? That loyalty ended up being the very thing that got him killed. He stayed down, he repped the brand, he refused to switch sides, and it put a target on his back. While Durk sat powerless in a cell, Bezoo got caught slipping in a junkyard, gunned down in broad daylight. And the hardest part? There was nothing Durk could do. The same OTF money that once protected Bezoo, that once kept everyone fed and safe, was frozen. The empire that was supposed to protect the family, gone overnight. So what was that loyalty really worth? That's the question echoing through every corner of Chicago right now. Because the streets love to say, loyalty is everything, and real recognize real. But what they never tell you is that sometimes, loyalty just gets you a headline, a memorial post, and your mama crying over a casket before you hit 35. That's the dark reality nobody wants to face. For Durk, losing THF Bayzoo is another brutal chapter in a book already written in blood. He's lost King Von, his right-hand man and best friend, murdered in 2020. He lost his blood brother D Thang in 2021, taken outside a nightclub in Chicago. He's buried homies left and right, each one taking another piece of his soul. And now his freedom, almost gone. His empire, crumbling. His loyal soldiers, dying one by one while he's stuck watching it all happen through bars and whispers. And now, the question everyone's afraid to ask, will THF retaliate? Will Bezoo's death trigger another wave of bloodshed? Because if we're being honest, Chicago's history tells us everything we need to know. Retaliation is part of the cycle. Pain turns to anger, anger turns to revenge, and revenge just starts the cycle all over again. But here's the heartbreaking truth, it never ends. Every death fuels the next one. Every loss spawns another war. And the streets keep claiming sons that were once kings in their own neighborhoods. So maybe the real question isn't if they'll retaliate, but when does it stop? When does somebody finally say, enough? When do these men realize that loyalty to the streets is loyalty to a graveyard that never runs out of space? THF Bezoo's story is more than just another Chicago tragedy. It's a mirror held up to the entire culture. A reminder that no matter how far you make it, if the streets still have your name, they'll eventually come to collect. For Lil Durk, this loss isn't just another wound. It's a breaking point. He's facing the reality that the loyalty he once glorified has taken everything from him. His friends, his freedom, his peace. And maybe that's the saddest part of all. Because for once, even the man who built only the family is realizing that sometimes, in this life, family ain't enough to save you. Rest in peace, THF Bezoo. A real one gone too soon. And for Durk, the silence of that cell just got even louder.